It was in Dover.
It was like the most awkward transaction that I was like in middle school. I'm like, what the fuck?
My dad, that'd be a Ron Stanfield deal. Okay, let's start this up.
All right, here we go. Let me get the stuff going. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Dirty Duck Coffee. If your coffee sucks, it's not the duck. Check them out in Food Lines on the East Coast. Should start seeing their coffee there pretty quick. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
Come a long way. They're all up and down the East Coast.
40 stores starting out, he told me. Good for them. I'm proud for them. Good guys, good product.
The American dream.
Yes, it is. Living the American dream. Both nice guys, good families, beautiful wives. Hit the lotto in life.
DirtyDuckCoffee.com.
Yep.
You don't have to go to the store.
And I'm betting you they're not working 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Ain't nobody successful in this country that works 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. You either bust your ass to get there, and then if that, you can work about 6 hours a week and have somebody else do all your shit. But you got to get there. With us
It
today,
evens out.
from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Chris Kaiser, one of Chris Kaiser's T-ball players, Mr. Brody Hensely with Pattern Pros. How are you doing, Brody?
What's going on, guys?
Not much. We've got, well, actually, we got a lot going on, but I try not to think about it. Manageable chunks.
What do we have? What do we have going on?
I'm all
You
over the
have
place,
a lot
Chef.
going on. I've got 3 podcasts to do a week, send invoices out, sit around the office, waiting on the phone to ring. My life's pretty simple right now.
Good.
When do you start coaching baseball?
I don't know.
That's coming up. God bless you. I feel sorry for anybody doing that.
All the gray hairs I see coming in
I'm
right now.
telling you, dude.
Coaching.
Like and they're starting to pop up more and more. I'm getting them in places I never thought I would.
I met you, Brody, last year at Delta, correct?
Yeah. Well, before Delta, I walked by the booth at the down in Fort Worth
At Texas Trophy Hunters?
at the Ducks Unlimited Expo down there at the Speedway.
Yeah, Ducks at Texas Motor Speedway. We'll be doing that again next year, but it'll be in Memphis. I met you I talked to you a lot at Delta. Got to know you a little bit. Sharp. This is one sharp young man right here. Me and Dirk were talking about this. Dirk from Boss, talking about how smart you were. The mother knucklehead you're partners with seem like really good guys, but you seem to be the brain of the operation. Is that true? Are you the smartest one in the group?
It's a collective brain cell. I just get to hold it right now for this podcast. I promise.
We really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Michelle really enjoyed the ladies. We had a good time. It was us, y'all, Jamie Johnson. It was a good time. The whole weekend was a good time. Old Jamie.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a blast. I couldn't say it went better than what I could have expected. It was more than that. So just glad you guys let me be along.
Your knowledge of firearms amazes me.
Oh,
Guys would come up with either a problem with their gun or a problem with the pattern that they were getting, and you could do like a step-by-step diagnostics right there in the booth. And 10 minutes later, they're walking away, and they've got at least a plan to shoot better. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
I mean, are you always like tinkering with shit or what?
Yeah, I'm usually fucking around with something. I think it boiled down to always getting yelled at by my dad, trying to work on something around the house. Like he's either working on the boat or the trailer. Something's going on. He was a very inquisitive person, and if it's broke, he's going to fix it. So I pretty much got all my gun knowledge from before the Marine Corps, always, being in the hunting community, getting to see all these new products. And then I had a plan to join the Marine Corps as military police, only because afterwards, I figured that would have been a good career choice for being a game warden. Then I realized everybody hates game wardens. They don't make a whole lot of money. And I wasn't old enough to get an MP contract because I signed when I was 17. You have to be 18. So they're like, well, what else do you like to do? And I was like, well, I like guns. And they're like, well, that's no shit. You're joining the Marine Corps. So I was like, well, I like working on stuff. So I was like, well, what about an armor, like a gunsmith stuff? And I was like, all right, well, I'll test it out. So went and did school for that and had a blast. Got to meet some incredible people in the community. Got meet a lot of people that worked at high levels during those courses. You know, shotgun classes, Benelli had classes there because we had Benellis, and so it just furthered my interest for just gun knowledge. I mean, just as much as I can read about it. I don't know. I don't like things messing up when I'm in game time.
Right.
You know, I don't like being out in the woods and it goes click and I'm like, this could have been avoided.
Yeah.
So got out, did that, went to gunsmithing school, and then worked for a company here in Broken Arrow building rifles for about 3 years. But that's where I really kind of honed the craft because it was a machine shop. So I got to focus on Cerakoting, focus on running the mills, the lathes, CNC stuff, barrel machines, you name it. So, and then just applied that to shotguns.
Right.
Shotguns are super easy.
We had a guy come up at the booth and asked me about a gun I've never even heard of in my life. I mean, I've never heard this game like a Biscuit 407 or some shit. I was like, huh? He's like,
Red Dog 39.
Yeah. He's like, what's the best load for that? I said, well, hold on, buddy. I said, let me tell you something. I'm a boss guy.
Yeah.
But I'm not a gun expert. I said, Brandon Surecki's a gun expert. And this young man right next to me knows more than anyone I've ever seen. So I'm going to hand you off to him for the technical expertise.
Yeah.
I can tell you what you need to shoot, but he is the technical one, can tell you, because guys won't know about his choke tubes and all kinds of shit. And I handed him off to Brody, and Brody's like, oh, yeah, it's the X714 3J. You need to do that and Cerakote this and do that. I was like, son of a bitch. And that happened 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah, it made me feel very inadequate because I'm like Jeff. And I was, and to a certain extent, I talked to Trevor Austin about this when we had him on the podcast a couple days ago. We were talking about duck calls. As long as it works for me, I don't fuck with it. You know what I mean?
I think everybody's in the same boat. It's just, the problem is it's my opinion. So my opinion can only go so far. It's not like it's factual truth. It's just stuff that I've seen. But it sucks because every choke tube, every gun, every shell, everything, there's so much components that go into it. They're all going to shoot differently. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you one thing and he can come back, hey, dude, that shoots like shit. I'm like, well, I gave you the baseline. Right. I just gave you a starting point. I can't do it for you. A lot of people just kind of want it done for you, which I don't blame them.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in today's world of outdoors, like equipment and whatnot. It's too much to figure out.
So Pattern Pros, you guys, tell us about Pattern Pros. Tell us what Pattern Pros exactly is, because I don't want to misspeak here.
So after the Marine Corps, and I went to go work for this company, I like buying shotguns. I mean, all the time. Don't tell my wife that. But I want to see how each one works, how they interact, what's the best. How can I be the best possible shooter out there where I'm spending less money because I'm shooting less, but I'm on target way more? So I go through and I test all these chokes and everything else. But as I noticed when I was shooting all these different guns, I was like, feeding them was the expensive part. Feeding them, I want to try these shells. Well, that's $60 a box. All right, cool. These shells, that's $50 a box. These shells, $23 a box. Not a big deal. Well, that starts to add up just to see what it shoots the best. And I was like, I only need 3 shells. I was like, you can go further into that. Some guys will be like, you need 5. Some guys need 15. Well, I'm just doing a hasty, put together general idea because no shotgun shell is perfect every time. So I was like, what if we just created a box, a patterning box for people to save money, but they also get to compare all the loads that they want to shoot side by side. So what we did was make a box. It's got 8 different brands in it. and it's got 3 shells each for a total of 24 shells. So I did 3 shells each because when I pattern it, I just want to see what a 20, a 30, and a 40-yard pattern does. Anything past that, like, I know that I'm not going to shoot past 40 yards. Now, some cases that does happen because it looks a lot closer. Right. I wear glasses. But, you know, if you were to do the same thing by buying the full box, you're looking $350, $400 a box. Or you just buy one of the pack that's already done for you for $60. You know, but you get to see Boss, Migra, Apex, all your big names and waterfowl, and then all the different types of loads: steel, a blend, a stacked, bismuth, tungsten. I mean, you name it, it's going to be in there. So once you find your shell that you shoot the best, like that pattern's the best out of it, go buy that shell. Sometimes it might be the cheap shell. Sometimes it might be the most expensive shell. But it's just it boils down to conservation, essentially, is to just stop crippling.
Right.
That was the big thing on it.
So, like, each time you got to go out there and put up a new paper, 20, 30, 40?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
This is a lot of work, Brody.
It takes about maybe an hour and a half. Like, if you bought the targets from us, you know, it comes with 25 targets instead of 24. Mm-hmm. That extra target is to help you find your point of aim, point of impact. Because you don't want to go out there and then find out that you're shooting low left on your third shell in, because that might be your third, you know, that might be a TSS load. And you're like, that's expensive to just figure out my fuck up now. So what we wanted to do is just put an extra target in there, find your point of aim, point of impact. If it needs to be adjusted with your shims, you can do that without having to shoot the duck loads.
Right. So what, in all of your experience, what is the gun that works for you? Because, you know, the gun that works for you might not work for me, and might not work for Jeff. So what is your, in a perfect world, your perfect shotgun with the choke and everything situated the way that you would like it?
I mean, I've had them all. I've had Mossbergs, I've had Berettas, I've had Benellis. I mean, you name it. I spent a whole lot of money sending my SB3 12 gauge I had last year off to Rob Roberts. He did the forcing cone, the porting. I mean, he dipped it the whole 9 yards. He did the whole gun. Phenomenal gun. It shot great. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of want to go back to a 20 gauge. So I've never had an A400. So I bought this Beretta A400, and I'm not looking back. This gun has been, it's like, it fit to me perfectly out of the box. I didn't have to shim it at all. I just run a factory modified choke tube in it. And I only ran it for half the season. So I'm still testing it to see if it's going to be holding up. But so far I have had no issues. I've had no jams. It's been down to 0 degrees. It's been wet. So I've shot snow geese in Arkansas with it. Like, it's a pretty potent little gun for sure.
Right. We, whenever we hunted in Saskatchewan with Rob and Josh, we were hunting snow geese up there. And I can't remember the exact numbers. We went through the shotgun shells. Not one time.
Like up there for sure.
Not one time. There were 6 shooters, wasn't there? You, me, Dirk,
Connie
and Logan. 5?
5 shooters.
5 shooters, all shooting the same gun because that's what they provided for us.
No, I shot a 28 gauge.
Oh, did you really?
I shot the 28. Dirk brung his 28 gauge up there, and I shot it.
So there were 4 or 5 of these Berettas. Nobody had a jam. Nobody had a misfire. Like, there was not a single issue, and it was 3 days of hunting. 100. We shoot 100 birds a day.
Yeah, we shot probably 3,000 rounds.
It's a barrel burner right there.
Yeah, I mean,
no, we didn't shoot that. How many's in a case of box? A case has got 200 in it. I bet we shot 1,500 rounds. Right. Because I shot a whole case of 28 gauge. So that's 200 rounds. Plus, then I started shooting at 12 after that because I shot all my 20. I shot it. Yeah, we probably shot 300 rounds apiece. So 1,500.
And not one time did we rip into a volley and somebody's like, motherfucker, my gun, jammed or, whatever. But it was crazy whenever you're thinking about the volume that we did. And we were talking to the guides about it, and they're like, yeah, like nobody ever has an issue.
We also didn't have any cripples
Yeah.
hardly at all.
Right.
Everything was stone cold dead.
But we were shooting the war chief
Yeah.
too, so and it was was decoying snow geese, so like they're right there.
20 yards, 25.
I mean,
That's a hard shot to miss. I mean, if they're hovering right there at 20 yards,
missing
like,
too.
you miss that, then you got bigger
you'd
problems.
we were shooting. Usually, we're shooting in groups of 10 or 15 birds. We didn't. Right. We weren't shooting into 100 and 300 birds. They were there, but we were shooting 10 to 15, and it was really good because Dusty Brown was guiding us, and he was one of the guides. Josh Moore, Dusty, but Dusty was really, really good about telling Ricky, the camera guy. He'd be like, okay, these three right here.
What he was looking at in the flock.
He said, what do you want? And Ricky'd say, these three come. And he said, okay, I'll watch those three. And he would work those three, and that would be our target birds. We'd shoot other things. But we had some times that we fucking missed, and then there was times we'd wipe out stuff because it was average shooters. You know, I'm not saying we.
Yeah, I mean, it's hunting. You're going out there. I mean, you're bound to miss. I mean, everybody can't be dead-eye dick with a gun. Like, it's just not going to happen.
But we shot a lot of birds, but it was a really good time. That was my question. So you said the Beretta. What for the bang for the buck? I used to tell people years and years ago, and this is an unsolicited plug because they do not sponsor us at all. But I used to tell everybody all the time the 870 Express for the money was the best shotgun you could buy back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's still. I mean, Remington's gone through a few quality control changes over the past 20 years since the bankruptcy and stuff like that. So their quality kind of faltered there a little bit, but then it's coming back. I had an 870 Express when I grew up as a kid. I mean, it's a great gun. You know, I shot ducks with it this year after I redid it. And I mean, for the bang for the buck, I mean, the Bedelli Nova, if you want a pump gun, that one is also a workhorse as well. I mean, I got one in the safe right now. It's probably 20 years old, and it's been lights out. Haven't had to replace any springs, nothing. I mean, I had to break ice with it before. You've used it as a bow paddle. I mean, I can't say anything good, anything bad about that gun whatsoever. And for $399 black, you get a name brand gun that's got, I think, a 10-year warranty. It's kind of hard to beat. But there's so many different other shotguns out there now that you can choose. It really just depends on how you're going to hunt and how much money you want to spend at that point.
We shot we're sponsored by Mossberg. A Mossberg's 940 waterfowl gun is a really good gun. Mm-hmm. It's a
how do you like that? I mean, like, did it perform pretty well? Any jams?
No,
or anything?
It's very underrated. It's a lot. It reminds me a lot of the Berettas that we did shoot in Canada. Very much so, but a really good gun, and it performed really well. What did we shoot in Ontario? Do you remember what guns we shot then? Because they provided guns for us too. Because we didn't take no guns with us.
They were SBE. I think they were Super Black Eagles. I can't remember if they were 2s or 3s, but they were Super Black Eagles.
I'll be honest with you. The guns today, there's not much difference in a lot of them. I don't think. I think the technology's gotten so much better.
Minor differences.
Right.
It's all about fit, essentially.
At this point anymore.
Mechanics is close to the same, probably. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
I grew up shooting automatic. I shot 1100 as a kid growing up, and it was my favorite gun I ever had. And I want to buy me a 76 model 1100. That's what I grew up hunting with, and I'd like to have another one day.
How the fuck are you gonna find that?
Ducks Limited had one in the vault, but it sold for about $10,000 freaking dollars.
Yeah, but that had engraving and shit on it, didn't it?
I just would like to.
I can't remember the name of the pawn shop, but there's one in Ada, Oklahoma that he probably has one for you. I know. I could call a guy and probably find one for you. I want
to buy me one of them. That's one gun.
1976
model Remington 1100, 20 or 12. I'd rather have a 12 because that's what I grew up shooting with. I don't ever shoot 12 gauges anymore. But I went to a over and under because back in the day, the damn sand out here jammed everything up. So I started shooting a Satori the last year I guided, which would have been like 95 or 96. And that gun of mine has got dowel rods where I busted the stock on it, or the I think what you call it goes on your shoulder. The
stock.
No, stock's up here.
The comb?
Whatever you hold.
Like on your cheek pad?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, what is that called? The comb?
Called the comb,
that thing, I've shattered it from shooting. I shoot 3.5-inch T-shot back in the day when steel sucked.
T-shot? Man, that 22 caliber bullet right there.
F-shot, it was terrible. But anyways, I busted that. I had to row a canoe in Alaska with it one time. It's been through the ringer.
Really?
For the money, it was the best gun I've ever owned in my life. And I'm going to pass it down to my grandkids one day. It is a great gun. It's been Parkerized. And for the money, you couldn't beat anything better. But a Satori's an expensive shotgun.
Yeah, they're great guns
yes.
though. I mean, they're workhorses as well for what you get.
Is the Synergy a really good gun too?
I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about it. I'm not an over and under guy, but when I worked at the gun shop, I used to work at a gun shop here in Tulsa. I had a Synergy come in, and it was Cerakoted, and I don't know if it was prepped right at the factory or whatnot, but it looked like it was just pure rust under the Cerakote. And the guy was like, I just put it in my gun case, and I was like, well, how cold was it? Because you're getting, when you throw the gun case like behind the blind or whatever, where you're getting, it'll frost up naturally sometimes, and sometimes you got to put your gun in a wet gun case. He's like, I'll just throw it in there and I'll just bring it back in the house. And I was like, that's where you messed up. Is when it goes from cold to heat, condensation attacks.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, when you take it in for every time I go duck hunting, I put the boat back in the garage. I pull the gun out of the boat, and then I pull the gun out of the case, and I just set it on one of my gun racks in my office to kind of let it air out. Because if you keep in that case, and if you're hunting over the weekend, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you're a weekend guy and you're going from weekend to weekend without touching it, you're going to pull it out, and you're going to notice it's orange, because it's sat there in that little pretty much airtight, if you have a floating gun case, an airtight water bubble essentially is what it is.
That's how I bought my Satori. I borrowed it from a guy. I shot it and I was like, listen, I'd like to buy this gun. He goes, I'm not going to sell that to you. He said, I bought that at Johnny's Sports Shop at Eagle Lake, Texas in 1978 or something. And he goes, I'm not ever going to sell that gun. I like it. I was like, man, it's sweet. He said, you can shoot it all season, Jeff. He said, I'm just not going to sell it. I just don't want to get rid of it. I understand. So we went to Alaska and he said, you can take it to Alaska and use it. And I said, okay. Well, a buddy of mine shot competitive trap and he had a gun case that I could borrow, a locked case. Yeah. So we fly to Alaska. Well, we get to the woods and that guy who owns the gun is with us and we open the case of it up and that son of a bitch is solid rust from the oxidation.
Yikes.
He goes, Jeff, you bought your gun. I was like, fuck.
Jeff, you bought your gun. So, that's awful.
And so I got cooking oil. And there was a Brillo pad there, and I used that cooking oil, and I rubbed that whole fucking gun down. By the time we got from Alaska, you couldn't tell nothing ever happened to it. But that's how I ended up.
I'm sure you spent a whole lot of time on it. That's for sure.
Well, there's not a whole lot to do in fucking Alaska besides eat shit, and shoot. And when we weren't shooting, I was rubbing on that gun.
So was it your fuck up or his?
No, it was just the gun case didn't seal all the way, and it was the oxidation from hot and cold. I'm assuming the airplane we flew on though had what do you call that where the dogs are in there and it's climate controlled pressurized cabin because the dogs were there. But maybe they put the gun in a different part of the plane and whatever it done, it come out orange when I opened the case up.
Yeah, I mean it could have been moisture inside the case before you even put it in there, and when it pressurizes, it kind of. And then in Alaska, you got the salt water right there too.
Yeah.
So that air affects gun because like my armory in the Marine Corps was right on the beach pretty much, and my stuff would turn orange all the fucking time. I had to keep those things wet.
So obviously you can get them back, but it's just a ton of work if this happens.
Yeah, I mean I use this stuff called Corrosion X, and NASA actually developed it to spray on electrical boards and stuff like that for up in space, like the condensation. When they come back in the orbit. So it's got some kind of chemical bond to it, and it adheres to the metal. So I did that with like my SIG magazines because I carry a 365 and I always have it in my waistband. And if I'm sweating and whatnot, I had no issues with it. And then there's another company I use. It's the True Oil. They're in Norman, actually. It's a veteran-owned oil company. And I use that for all my internal parts, and I've had no problems with rust on my guns. Then again, I clean it after every single hunt.
You do?
Do you do that, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, if the gun takes me less than 5 minutes to take apart, like all I have to do is unscrew a cap, barrel comes off, punch one pin, the trigger's out. And that's it. Just wipe it down, and then I just do a dot of oil. I just keep them dry as possible. And then a dot on oil on metal contact, and then the gun runs like a sewing machine, and I've had no issue.
And
I got other guys that don't do that, and their stuff goes click quite a bit.
It's called Corrosion X.
Yeah, Corrosion X. I'm making a square bottle, an airframe. Like my old boss, he sprays it all on his front ends during the wintertime, so the salt doesn't like attack his car.
How does that compare to like Barricade? Because that's what I use at the end of the year. I sprayed Barricade on everything.
I'm trying to remember Barricade. I can't. There's so many different oils.
Like a rust. Let me see.
Rust inhibitor.
Yes.
First of all, I'm calling bullshit on this anyways. Andrew.
Jeffrey.
You really cleaned your guns this year.
No, I didn't this year.
Okay, that's what I do.
Not yet. There's still time.
The season just ended.
You haven't been in the field in a month.
It's been 3 weeks.
3 weeks. He'll clean his gun about never.
That's not true at all.
Did you meet Mags while we were at?
It's the ultimate test for a good gun.
Did you?
That's what it is.
Yeah. You want to see how good your gun is? Give it to me.
You met Ray and Mags, didn't you?
Give
it to me.
Brody, you met Ray and Mags, right? Mags is one that cleans his gun all the time. He would clean Andy's gun twice a year at least while he worked for us. Did he not?
He would do that.
And that's probably the last time Andy has got his gun completely cleaned.
Barricade's made by Birchwood and Casey. It is a rust protection for firearms.
Yeah. I know. I remember the bottle now. I haven't used it personally.
So it's probably not any good. I'll get Corrosion X.
I mean, who knows? I'm not promoting any products, but this is my opinion, you know.
So when guys order for Pattern Pros, I call you up and I say, hey, I've got a 28 gauge that I shoot. I got a 28 gauge Mossberg over under. I shoot it. I love it. And I'd call you that, and then you're going to send me 28 gauges in five different shells or 8 different.
So right now we have 12 and 20 for the waterfowl packs. We will be coming out with 28s soon. And then turkeys we have 12, 20, and 410. We're still working on the 28s on that one as well.
Okay, let's say 20 gauge. I shoot a 20 gauge over under also. I got a 20 gauge Mossberg over under also. And I tell you.
Yeah, so we'll send you a pack of 8 different brands, the 3 shells each. It'll be the 24 shells total. And it'll have things like Boss. It'll have Winchester. I mean, if you look at it like on a price range, it'd be from cheap shells all the way to expensive shells.
Why do people buy cheap shells? You spend all that money to hunt, and then you're going to use a cheap shell. I've never understood that.
That's kind of one of the things, too, is, you buy a rifle and you buy a bow. The first thing you want to do with that is you're going to have to sight it in. But when a lot of people, they just buy a shotgun and they're just like, it scatters BBs. What do you mean that, like, choke tubes and shells and stuff have a different play?
I'm in that group of guys.
And I think it kind of boils down to like the hunter education. Like patterning is not really talked about. When I was growing up, it really was never talked about as like shoot that decoy on the water. And that looks about right. That's pretty much the general consensus of what I've gotten out of a lot of these polls is like, I just shoot the duck on the water. I'm like, that's cool. That doesn't tell you anything about the pattern. Like, hitting a duck on the water, you could have the shittiest pattern in the world and still fare pretty good.
My dad had a Marlin goose gun that he bought.
Bolt action?
Oh yeah, the old timey one. I've got it hanging up in the wall in there. And he shot that sumbitch and shot that sumbitch and shot that sumbitch, and he never ever could kill shit with it. And my dad was not a great shot anyways, and it damn sure didn't help having a smart ass kid like me who jacked with him about missing all the time. But finally one day we were shooting at some geese, and he shot, and like the bird at the end of the pack fell. He's like, "God damn, I killed that sumbitch."
Really?
I said, "Good shot." He goes, "I wasn't aiming at it though. I was aiming at the other one." So he took it to a gunsmith, and when he bought it from Marlin or Gibson's discount stores where he bought the damn thing, and when they had cut the barrel off of it, they had cut it at an angle, so the shot was not right. So he sent it in and they had to fix it, and they did, and now it's hanging up on the wall, and I'll never shoot it again. But that's what you were talking about. You just get a gun and you assume, because I'm out of that box, and Andy, I'm assuming you are too. If I get a shotgun, I'm taking it out and shooting it tomorrow. I'm not thinking about going to, I don't think about patterning it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these guns now, like my Brody came with 5 extended chokes, from cylinder all the way up to full. And it's kind of funny because it's a hit and miss with factory chokes. You could either have a really good choke with you and you got very lucky, or you just got a choke that's pretty much a placeholder and it did nothing. It was terrible. And that's another one of the expense when it comes to finding out how your gun shoots to you is if you have crappy factory chokes, the only way to find out is to put it on paper, and then you got to go find a choke, right? And chokes are not the cheapest thing in the world.
What are
anymore.
they? They're $150 a pop?
I mean, you can go anywhere from $40 to $180, in a typical hunting choke.
Yeah.
I mean, but a lot of it too, I mean, it seems like in the waterfowl community, it's just death by marketing. So who does the better marketing and whatnot? Not saying that they don't have a good product. It's just like, I do see people get reeled in a lot. It's like, oh, you got to have this. It's got to have ports. And you're like, ports on a choke tube, it's not going to, they think it's going to like mitigate all the recoil and they're going to shoot like John Wick. And you're like, no, that's just one of those things. Not saying that ports don't work. I'm just saying you're not going to notice felt recoil any different.
So I know nothing about guns. I know nothing about that's what the port is for, is to reduce the recoil.
So a typical porting, like we use an AR-15, for example, and if I have a muzzle brake on it and that muzzle brake's 3 inches long and it's going to have these ports out the side. And so when you shoot and as the bullet comes through and the gases dissipate, it's pulling that gun forward when you're keeping it tight. So it's kind of like counterbalancing your recoil. Mm-hmm. So I think where people misinterpret that with the choke tubes is your circles or your ports going all the way around. So it's just gas dissipation in a 360-degree circle and not in a directional area to pull that gun away from you. Now, if I put like a muzzle brake choke tube, if they, I'm sure they make one for a shotgun, it would be different because now it's pulling those gases forward. It's pulling that recoil away from the body. And so it reduces the felt recoil on your shoulder.
So in your opinion, in your professional opinion, skip the ported chokes.
I mean, I don't ever buy them. This year, I mean, you're going to find them a lot on turkey chokes just for gas dissipation. It's going to help out a little bit. But I think it's just where people get confused. They're like, oh, this is going to help me with the recoil mitigation. And if the ports are just on top, yeah, it would drive that barrel down if it was on bottom. But you would have to have pretty much a specially made choke tube for your barrel because of thread pattern to make sure it clocks at the very 12 o'clock position. Right. You're not getting that out of a factory or choke or anybody that's making chokes. You would have to send your barrel in.
Do you think that they started making these just because they kind of look cool? And they're like, hey, some fancy...
There's a lot of cool ones looking out there.
Fancy technology, sure. Like they look kind of cool at the end of your barrel and just people don't know any better.
Get them cold, you can get them gold plated. You can get them Cerakoted red, white, blue. I mean, there's a whole plethora of what you can do to just set you apart. I mean, it's just competition in the market. Typical the capitalistic thing is like, you got to compete. Mm-hmm. You can't just have a bland looking one. But you can have a bland looking one if it produces results. Right. You gotta let that talk for yourself. It's essentially. So
you said it's hit or miss with factory chokes. They could either be really, really good or they could just, like you said, be a placeholder. Do you on all of your guns, do you go for an aftermarket choke?
I'll test the factory ones first. I mean, because like with this Beretta, I have that factory mod and it shot very well for me. And I was like, well, there's kind of no point, to go out and buy one for $100, $130. Now, if it's something that I want to try to test to have my opinion on it, I'll go do that so I can kind of help other people out, get an idea. But if you have a gun, test it with the factory ones first. It's going to save you some money and a lot of headache. Once you start crunching the numbers too much, you start getting in your head like, well, I got to have an aftermarket. No, I mean, if it comes with factory flush chokes, then yeah, I'll buy an aftermarket extended. I don't like flush chokes. It's hard to get out of a gun if it swells, and you'll mess up the end of your barrel without trying to extract it. Well, not saying that you will mess it up. It's just it's a higher chance of you messing it up.
You could.
Yeah.
I got the Browning Maxis, and it all came with the extended band, choke tube.
Oh, the Wicked Wing version. Yeah, those are phenomenal guns. The Maxis is just it's bulletproof, man. They did a really good job on that shotgun.
Yeah. So what is your favorite? I'm gonna put you in a box here. What's your favorite aftermarket choke that you like to put in these guns?
I've had good results with Briley's. Briley makes a good choke. Mahler makes a phenomenal choke. He has got really, really good quality control on his products. Rob Roberts. I mean, I've had probably 4 or 5 different companies of great results. Carlson's makes a good choke. If you want to save some money from the $130. Mm-hmm. But like last year, I shot a turkey with my Rob Roberts Raptor choke that he just came out with. That thing at 40 yards, I mean, I was like 98% pattern density with the turkey load. It's pretty good at 40 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's almost damn near 100%. And in the head of that target, it was 130 BBs.
Right.
At 40 yards, that's a dead turkey.
What was the percentage at 20 yards?
It would have been the size of a softball.
Really?
I didn't. So since I was shooting at the time, I was shooting the Apex 3.5-inch number 9s. I think it was like a 2 1/4 ounce. And yeah, so I think I counted 900 something BBs in that shell. Kicks like a fucking mule. I tested it in a t-shirt and I was like, fuck me, man, this is I walked all over me. I'm only 140 pounds. So I felt that one on that one.
And you're a lefty, right?
I shoot with both.
You do shoot with both?
Yeah, I'm right-eyed. So I'm right-eyed dominant. Found that out when I was playing baseball. But it's comfortable on my left. So I have no problem switching eyes, switching hands. It's nice if you need to work around a tree, like in a timber roll or whatnot, and you need a transition. You're like, I'll just switch the hand and shoot them like that. It's got its benefits, but I shoot a bow right-handed, I throw right-handed, I write left-handed, and I shoot with both. I'm fucked up.
Now, is that a pain in the ass whenever the shells are ejecting into your face?
No, I actually prefer it, which is weird to say. I like right-handed shotguns way better than left-handed shotguns. Only because of the reloading operations that I have to do. I'll switch the safeties to a left-handed safety, so I just push the button instead of having to reach around and flip it from the backside. But if I have a jam or anything that happens, it's right there in my face. I immediately see that malfunction. I can fix it with my support hand while still having this hand on the firing control. So there's been a lot of times I'll hold a shell in my hand. If I see a big group coming, I was like, I need a quick 4 shot so I can try to shoot my four ducks right there. And all I have to do is just slide my hand down, push, and then as I'm sliding back up, you're naturally hitting that button and you're just bringing it back up. So when I see a malfunction or anything, I can fix it. Now, left-handed gun, I have to turn the gun around, take it pretty much off my shoulder, fix that problem, and then get it back up. And by that time, that duck's moved 10 yards. But if it's a right-handed gun, I can just fix it. Hopefully another one is right there on the lifter, and I can get it going.
You're like fucking John Wick.
I've shot a lot of ducks like that, surprisingly.
You're like fucking John Wick out there.
Shit, like, they make left-handed guns. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also America, and I do what I want. So it works for me.
Well, and it probably also helps with you being comfortable with your right hand to be able to do everything. If somebody's not comfortable with their left hand, their offhand or whatever, and they're kind of fumphing around that way.
It's something to practice for sure. It was cool in the Marine Corps. Like if you had to go in a house different ways, I mean, all right, I'll switch hands for this doorway, or I'll go left-handed for this doorway, and it's perfect. And everybody's like, you're weird. I don't know what you mean. This is it's natural just to shoot like that. When I was a kid, my dad would set a case in front of me. He's like, you're going to shoot this case today. It's skeet shooting. It was very cool. So I had like 2 or 3 of those boxes. I would shoot right-handed. I mean, it's all about practice.
Yeah.
So how did Pattern Pros come about? How did that all work out with 3 Marines and y'all 3 live in different parts of the country?
Yeah, so we all met in the Marine Corps, and when I got stationed out in California, I pretty much wrote off any type of hunting just because being from Oklahoma,
Yeah.
you hear the things about California, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably pretty much impossible to hunt. So I get out there, and my unit, we did a lot of different types of training. We did like urban sniper courses, all kinds of weird stuff. So I got to play with a lot of weird guns. Well, we had a machine gunner in our unit, and he was like, "Hey, man, do you hunt?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm from Oklahoma. Of course, it's like natural to us over there. We're just a bunch of redneck." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I do too. And you should talk to Ryan over here." And he was the same part of the branch training service that he was with. And so I didn't know who that was. So we were out there cleaning guns one day. I was just helping them. I was trying to get $20 out of them so I could clean their gun because it takes me like 3 minutes and then I make money out of it, right? And I heard somebody talking about decoys. And I like poked my head out and I was like, what do you know about decoys? What are you talking about? And so it snowballed from there. Ryan was telling me, he's like, dude, you can duck hunt in California, blah, blah, blah. I think this was like in August. And so he like convinced me, dude, get your license, get your stuff. I didn't have a gun. I didn't have anything with me, but my dad, he drives a truck for a living, going to a lot of oil sites, and he was going to Bakersfield a few times. I was like, hey, can you bring me a gun, a case of shells, and some waders, and just bring me my blind bag. I'll order some decoys while I'm here. Pretty much had to rush to get everything. And so we started hunting together, and it was very eye-opening comparatively to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Everything costs buku money. They don't really have the public lands like we do here. Like here, I can hop in a boat and pretty much cover 75% of the state without having to pay a dime to anybody. But there, it's all managed WMAs, and it's a shit show. But they do it really well. I mean, it's very, very chaotic shit show. So we started hunting, and then the next year after that, the next season, the last season I was there, Christian came along. They met. Both of their girls played soccer together, and they went to church together, I believe. And so he came into the group, and we started hunting all together. And then that's when I got out, and we pretty much brainstormed. I was like, hey, I'm tired of buying all these shells. This is an idea. Let's see what it works. And Ryan took that back to a few guys that he knew in South Carolina, and they were like, never thought about it, but it seems like a phenomenal idea. Help save money and conservation at the same time. And so he called me back the next day. He's like, let's do it. And I'm like, all right, sure, why not? I mean, what's it going to hurt? Just trying to spread the awareness out there to duck hunters.
Yeah, this is all new to me just because I've never thought to pattern my gun or anything. So it was just, I'd just buy whatever and, get it close enough.
That's about normal.
But like, it makes sense for guys that do want to know, how can I get the most effective shot out there? And like you said, you hate to spend $50 on a box of TSS or $60 just to find out that that's not the box for your gun.
That. Yeah. And that's and then kind of like a secondary effect of why we kind of want to do this. I've been duck hunting for a long time, probably since I was like 4. And I've seen some phenomenal duck seasons in just a short time I've been alive. And then it seems like the past 5 or 6, it's been downhill. It's been tough. It's been a fight to find them. You're going to have to put the gas and the time to find them and to kill them. And I was like, well, let's look at it where, what can we do as individual hunters? I mean, like, yeah, we can continue to, give money to Delta Waterfowl and Ducks Unlimited. That's great. That's fantastic. And you should continue to do that because it helps conservation. But it seemed like a lot of the blame always goes back to the conservation organizations too. Like, oh, they're up here and they're just doing this and they're doing that. They're not, the numbers are skewed. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, let's just get the numbers out of the equation. Like how many birds are crippled each year that you can't find, either because you're not hunting with a dog or you're just choosing to shoot the cheapest stuff and just go out there and have that killer mind mentality and not like a hunter conservation mentality, because ultimately it goes back to our sons. I want my sons to see what I saw, and I know you want your sons to continue to hunt these birds. So if we can just do a little bit of extra time in the off season, take you an hour out of your time, buy a pack, see what shoots the best, and just practice all your shooting, and then go out there, because ultimately the only person that touches that duck is you. I mean, you and that shotgun is what's going to kill that bird. If you choose to go out there and you're going to shoot a cylinder choke and triple BB, and you're like, I'm dropping them I see them fly off about 500 yards and they fall, and I can't get to them because I either don't have a boat or I can't find them or this and this. Cool. That's just another bird you took out of the breeding population, man.
Right.
Like, that's why I say just do your part. You can do your part, and you don't have to spend all the money in the world giving it to somebody else and hoping they do it. Like, you got to kind of take accountability on yourself.
Right.
You know, there's always ways to improve, whether it's your duck calling, it's, decoy setups, it's your shooting, it's the little things that you do right over time. Everything's going to come together. And like, hopefully with enough people that get on board, you start to see it's just one more thing to add back into the community. I mean, because 11 million birds were killed in 2021 season, I think. 10% of that is roughly estimated to be crippled.
Wow.
So that's what, 1 million birds?
Right. That just flew off and died.
That could be 1 million roughly back into the breeding population, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. You have filled a need. That's what's cool is like you filled a need that I didn't even know needed to be filled. It's like you had an answer to a question that I didn't even know was a question, and that's what's cool about it.
I didn't either. I just started I was like breaking it down. I was like, dude, what can I do? I was like, I know I don't have the time to open up my own Ducks Unlimited chapter. I mean, I don't have the time to go out there and like, well, let's go manage. A lot of the time the wildlife department be like, nah, we like can't help out. There's a lot of people that want to help out, but everything's a bureaucracy and it takes time, and they're like, we got to get all these resources set up. Like, well, what are we doing right now? So we're always sitting on our hands, but nothing's being done in a timely manner. And by the time it does, it's way down the road, and you're like, well, it could have probably been different if we just attacked it. So I'm like, well, let's just attack it at an individual level then. Let's just become better duck hunters, better mentors for the sport. A lot of people that's just now gotten into it because of COVID. Mm-hmm. COVID locked everybody inside, and they're like, well, I'm listening to all this hunting podcasts, and they're like, hey, there's a lot of benefits to hunting. Let's get out and hunt. You don't have anybody to teach you the right way to do it. Like, our dads and everybody else's dads and stuff that I know, they taught them good stewardship of the woods and how to give back and just when to take ethical shots, how to call on this, how to set up decoy spreads. These guys, I mean, you can learn a lot from watching a YouTube video, but if you don't have that basic knowledge of just the simple stuff, you're 10 steps behind. So
what you're doing, have you had a hard time getting the ammo manufacturers to jump on board with y'all? Because I think some of them, you would think that if you manufacture ammunition that you would be proud of what you have and want to showcase it. But I can see where some of the cheapies do not want their stuff out there because they know it doesn't stand up to standards.
Well, the big thing that I've seen, I mean, we've had really good feedback with pretty much all of the manufacturers. Boss has been really helpful. Apex, Migra, Federal, I mean, Remington, all the big names pretty much in waterfowl has been like, no, this makes sense because the way I look at it, it's free marketing, right? So I'm still buying your product, and then we're creating pretty much a comprehensive pack for other people. So say we'll use Boss for an example, and I have a buddy here, and he's never shot Boss, and he's been turned off. He's like, I don't want to just buy 20 shells because of this price. So I'm like, all right, cool. But you find that pattern and it shoots really well, and you start shooting more birds with less shells, you essentially saved money because you're not shooting as much like you would go through a case every season. Like when I was a kid, my dad would buy me a case and he'd buy himself a case, and we would go through that case. Maybe we were going through that case because there was a lot of follow-up shots because maybe we just didn't have the right stuff. And it boils down to You're going to spend a little bit of money, but it's also ultimately going to be better for you. Like last year, I shot all steel 3-inch number 2s. And then this year, I shot bismuth number 4s. And I shot 50% last year, and this year I shot 65%. I killed more birds, and I shot less shells. So obviously, there's benefits to seeing that. Now, doing the same thing, but people, they look at numbers. Duck hunters love to look at numbers. How many dozen decoys that you have out? What's the wind speed? They calculate all these numbers, but they fail to calculate shooting percentage and money that goes into shells. Why not save the money, man?
I did the math one day. I was doing some, and I'm a math guy, but a Boss shotgun shell runs anywhere from $150 to $225, depending on what the price is and what that's somewhere around that. If you're a good shot with Boss, if you shoot a bird every other shot, which is a good shot, and you should be able to do that for decoying birds. It's not that hard. You're talking.
Yeah, with the bismuth that I was shooting this year, comparatively to the steel, I have noticed significantly more doubles and triples that I have ever. And it was pretty standard, like 3-pack or 2-pack come in is like pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're not having to follow up your shot. Before, when you were shooting that cheap ass steel shit, you had to follow up your shot all the time, and you had to stay on it till it hit the ground. Well, with Bosch, you don't have to do that. So if let's say it's $2 a shell, and you take 15 shells out with you to kill your limit of 6 ducks, you're talking about $30.
Yep.
You spent gas.
Yep.
You stopped and bought pizza and coffee for breakfast at some little at Allsup's or whatever they have in Oklahoma or Nebraska, those little Casey's or whatever it is. The $30 is the cheapest part of your hunt for the most important part of your hunt. You do everything you can to
like
pull
I said,
the
it's
trigger.
the only thing that's touching the duck.
Yeah, and
that shell.
Yeah, if you don't pull the trigger at all, it don't matter. But when you pull that trigger, you want results, and that's
the biggest disconnect that I've seen with waterfowl hunters and turkey hunters. Turkey hunters, you want to talk about some patterning fools?
Mm-hmm.
They go down to the nuts on everything patterning when it comes to turkeys, and I think that's because that you have that one shot,
right?
And so a lot of guys are, well, you're duck hunting, you're smoking and joking, you're shooting more than once. Well, okay, but why not take that approach every time a group works in? Take that approach every time a group works in. Be like, this is my shot. This is my only shot. That could be your last shot. Hell, you could get in a car wreck going home.
Yeah, that
could be your last bird. So why not make it count every time a group works in? To me, that's like I'm just doing my part as a duck hunter. It's like I'm going to make it count every time they come in. I'm not going to be perfect every time, but I'm going to give it everything that I have. I'm not just going to go out there and just shoot $2. And I'm like, fuck, that was an expensive duck.
Right.
Just get to know your pattern, get to know your choke tube and gun. It could just be $2 instead of $6 on that shell. So now it affords you to shoot that more expensive shell.
Yeah. So, speaking about turkeys, I am a number 9 guy. It's what I like. If you look at with Boss, I think there's like 900 some odd pellets in the 9 versus
905, I believe. Versus a 3-inch with 12 gauge 3-inch 2.5 ounce. I think it's 905
versus what's in the 7s, like 450, 460 or something like that.
435, 460. It's in the 4s, I believe.
Right in there.
Significantly different.
So that's why I am more skewed to the 9 side. Because it's like a wasp, it's like a hornet's nest going out at them.
You don't have a lot of faith in your shooting, do you?
I need more pellets, is what I'm getting at. I need more projectiles going out there to help me out.
It's confidence in the shot,
right?
That's everybody wants to give shit to people that shoot TSS, and I see it almost 9 times a day on a turkey group that I'm a part of in Facebook. It is a crazy rivalry. I just shoot lead. I shoot TSS. Learn how to call. Do this. Get them close. You don't need it. All right, cool. But let's just break it down by the numbers. Since we always break it down by the numbers, if you're looking at 900 BBs, and say at 40 yards, you're at 98% complete. You have a good screen door that you could throw at that turkey.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts that he's going to get away. If he does, there's a lot of variables that could get in there. Is there brushing away, stuff like that. Lead, we use 3.5 for an example. 3.5 number sixes. I mean, you're looking at upper threes, maybe fours, like in the pellet count, like 400 or so. Why not double that?
Right.
Same speeds, maybe 100 feet per second difference. Double that, and then now you got a confidence boost. This isn't a confidence boost just like, hey, I can shoot him at 100 yards now. You still got to do your part on like gauging the distance, but you know that you have, like, when you have gear that you're confident in, like when you grab your duck call and you know that you can turn some ducks and stuff with that specific call that you have, you're like, cool. If I gave you a call and like, hey, I want you to call ducks with this at all, you're going to be like, I got to learn it.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with the shotgun shells, man. If I'm confident with what's in my gun and I know in a 180-degree radius, I'm like, I am 100%, I can smoke a turkey or ducks in this area, and I have no problem. If I miss, it's on me at that point. Everything like statistically with the gun and everything else, that's already been taken care of. So now it just boils down to the shooter.
Right. But what's the argument for number sevens? Because in my mind, we'll just round everything to even numbers. 900 pellets versus 450. Let's say it's 450. You're getting twice as many pellets in the 9 versus the 7s. What's the benefit to shooting a number 7?
I mean, you'll have a little bit bigger, obviously a little bit bigger shot size. Personally, I go with the number 9s. I haven't really noticed too much difference in penetration on like gel blocks when they show off like 7s and 9s.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of goes back to the shooter's individual preferences, giving them more than just one option.
Right.
Because typically with the TSS, you can shoot about three shot sizes higher than what you normally shoot. Bismuth is about 2 shot sizes higher than what you normally shoot. So if you shoot a number 2 steel, you can go with a 4 or a 5 on bismuth if you wanted to bump it up a little bit. And then with tungsten, just, keep going with that.
Right.
+3. So like I shoot numbers, back before tungsten and stuff, I shot Federal 3.5-inch copper plated number 6s. So to mimic that same lethality and everything else,
9s.
I just want number 9s. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, because I've always thought about that. It's like you're getting twice as many pellets in this 9 versus the 7. Why wouldn't you just go with the 9 and you got more shit out there to kill something with?
Yeah, I mean, the 7s, it just depends. Sometimes the 9s out of people's like turkey chokes, they don't do well. Maybe the constriction's off or something like that. And like, well, let me try the 7s with, I don't want to buy a new choke,
Right.
but I'll just buy another box of shells. Let me try the 7s.
Yeah.
The 7s come out the pattern better. Because there's that variable to play in it too. What choke tube do I have? Or, the gun, every bore size is different. They try to keep it, but every manufacturers have their own definition of what the bore size should be.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense then, I guess. What do you think's coming next with the shot? I mean, because there's so many good shotguns out there. There's so many good aftermarket chokes. Like how can it get any better than what we're at right now? And I mean, obviously it will. There's going to be something that comes along in the next 5 to 10 years. You're like, fuck me.
Oh man, dude, it could go, there's so much room for improvement. And there's a lot of good shotguns out there, but they're not what I want. They're not the best. Like if I was to build my own shotgun, like I want different types of coatings in the trigger mechanism so I don't have to worry about that rusting ever. I want, it comes standard. Start doing some different like features that kind of, because a lot of these guns, I mean, I'm just going to use one gun as an example. I'm not going to say the name, but a while back I bought a $2,000 shotgun. It's inertia, and it had cycling issues. I'm like, okay, let me see. So I put a Sure Cycle system in there. I shouldn't have to spend $160 to fix that problem. Yeah. Now, their Wolf Gun Springs makes the same spring, 25% more power for $12. But still, I shouldn't have to spend $12 to fix that problem when I just gave you $2,000 to give me a fucking solid duck gun.
Right.
You know what I mean? I expect with me giving you pretty much 2 months worth of mortgage payments to give me something in return.
Right.
That works fine. And it's not just like a pick on that one gun brand or anything. It's just, I see it. A lot of these guys, like straight out of the box, they want the gun to run phenomenally. I mean, it can, but it seems like recently they're just trying to pump out because after COVID there was supply chain issues, everything else like that. So they were looking for workarounds and metallurgy or different vendors and stuff like that, and they kind of sacrificed a little bit on quality.
Right.
And I kind of noticed that with guns in the past few years. You're just like, same price,
Yeah.
not holding up to the abuse.
And they're trying to catch up from
A lot
COVID.
of guys will shoot like older guns who are like, no, they hold up to snuff. These new ones, I broke one in first box.
Yeah.
You know?
I like the look of the Browning A5 because I'm kind of a throwback kind of guy. You know, I'm kind of a vintage guy.
Yeah.
There, if you had to pick a waterfowl, like just in your mind, somebody says waterfowl gun, I always go to those old humpback Browning A5s.
Which you saw in everything, pretty much in the heyday of duck hunting, in the 60s, 50s, stuff like that. Those old photos, what do you see on them? Old A5.
Yeah.
Or the Remington version of it. I think it was like the Model 11, I believe. Can't remember. But it was the humpback design. I mean, my dad shoots one now. He's got one of the new ones, and he shoots it great. I can't shoot it worth shit because that hump fucks with me, and when I throw it up and it's right there, I'm like, oh,
Right.
I don't know. It's a subconscious kind of thing, but they just came out with a 20 gauge recently with the A5.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's going to be a huge seller for Browning.
I'm going to bet you though that the old Browning A5s are like the Rolex watches. I bet you.
Big money.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't have my laptop with me. I wonder what a 1970 model. I don't know what year a 1970 version of the Browning A5 would it cost for a 1960 compared to buying a new one today.
Because there's different like manufacturings too. They had the ones made in Belgium. Right. Those are the ones that everybody wants.
Yeah,
the Belgium made ones. But the problem is with those, they're a little bit older. You don't want to shoot any of the new shells in it because the pressures are different than what shells were back in the day. Now there is companies that do make a low pressure load. Bismuth, all of Boss's stuff will shoot out of older guns because they have tolerable pressures when it comes to it, so you don't have to worry about cracking anything. That's 16 gauge is very popular.
I've got a gun in there that was made in 1897, built, and it's my great grandfather's old shotgun, and I have it hanging up in there. And Dale Borderlane was shooting one about like it that he still shoots with the Boss shells. I just don't.
Yeah, he still shoots that, doesn't he? I see pictures with him all the time. I mean, they'll hold up. They'll hold up to everything that you throw at them as long as you just take care of them. It's kind of basically like with everything else. As long as you take care of it, they'll take care of it.
I need to ship that up to Surecki and let him shoot it and see what he thinks.
That'd be cool. You try to kill some ducks with it this year or whatnot, this next upcoming season, see if you can do it.
I mean, it hasn't been shot in shit.
Before you do that, though, I would send it to a gunsmith and let him inspect it to make sure there's no cracks or anything.
Yeah, I was going to send it to Surecki to look at.
Yeah, no, he'd be good. He'd be good for it. He can definitely probably tell you what's up.
So I found a couple old ones from Belgium. 1949. It is $1,200.
Oh, that's all?
That's not bad.
1963, it's $4,500. And
that's where you start playing the quality game.
That's what I figured I was going to be running.
And
anyways.
then 1984, it's got engravings on it, $1,100.
So a 60.
Yeah, you can probably pick one up pretty quick.
A 65 is $4,500.
Yeah,
that's the one you want.
Yeah, this one looks like it's probably the one that's got the engravings. Looks like it's probably a Ducks Unlimited gun. I can pull up a picture. I don't.
It's
Browning Gold Classic is what it is. So no, not a Ducks Unlimited gun.
That's a 65 or that's the 80?
That's the 84
Okay.
Belgium, and it's $1,100.
The 65 is $4,500.
Yeah,
that one will be worth $10,000 in 10 years.
It's just fat. It's just walnut and just a
bare
black
bones
gun.
as could be.
Yep, just a plain good old shotgun.
Yeah,
that'd be a neat gun to have though. Just to have this to put up. That's one gun I do not own any of. I've got
A5?
this. Yeah, I've got a couple of over under Satoris. My Satoris were both made in Belgium.
Really?
Yeah.
So what about home defense? What's the best shotgun for home? And like go like full nerd on this, barrel length, chokes, everything. What What do you want? Or do you just want that
Boss Mom 9s.
Or do you just want that Benelli Nova that's going to go bang every time with...
There's a lot of different things, I guess, when you say, I don't think it matters what the things with shotguns. And there's a guy on YouTube, I can't remember his name, but he was like, if you want to take a bunch of shit off of somebody and put it on the floor, shoot them with a shotgun. Like, whatever you shoot, especially in a house. I mean, you're looking at max distance. If you have a big house, your hallway might be 20 feet. The thing that you got to worry about is there's a lot of different perspectives on how you want to work this. If you were the only one in the house, you're a single dude, and you don't have to, and you live in a house, like don't live in an apartment or anything, you can run buckshot if you want. You're going to send, there's some buckshots that's lower velocities that might not go through all the walls. But if you have like an older house, 1960s, 1970s, these walls are fucking paper thin. You can punch right through one really fast. So you could use, I'm sure, I don't want to be shot with anything, whether it's a number 9 light load or fucking rifle, a 22. A hole in your body that's not supposed to be there is obviously not good for your health. So if you had 500 little number 2 BBs in your ass cheeks, it probably makes you want to think, I should probably get out of this house, because that's probably not going to be the only shit on this gun. And it's a deterrent too. If you use a pump action, just pump the gun. Yeah, you can. And when you're in the dark and you hear that go off, you're like, oh, your butthole kind of puckers up a little bit. When you hear that at night, you're like, fuck.
Wrong house.
But you can do the same thing with a semi-auto. Just keep that shell on the lifter and just rack it. Or if you want to be, sneaky snake like John Wick, have it already one in the pipe. Stick it around that corner, and as soon as you see a shadow move, I mean, you can send it right down the hallway. But be aware when you do that, you got to answer to that with the police if that's a non-combatant.
But so
you just shot your grandma because she's delusional, whatever. You don't want to do that.
So buckshot in home defense scenarios is a little overkill?
I mean, use whatever is going to keep somebody off of you. If that's a fucking Barrett 50 count, go ahead and use it. You just got to be you got to be able to speak upon that if something happens throughout so-and-so. Say
shit goes sideways.
If I was going to use my AR and I start smoking a dude through a doorway and it goes to the next house and hits a kid, was that the best gun to choose? Probably not. So you'd have to speak upon it, right? So it's just whatever's going to keep you. I mean, birdshot, if you're in a small house, it's going to have less recoil. So if you're a woman or whatnot, or very elderly man that can't, and those times, you're probably shooting from the hip.
Right.
They make those little shorty shells, but I think one gun manufacturer feeds them really reliably, and that's one of the Mossbergs. They make a separate lifter that you can put in there that feeds those shells. So you can do that. You can load like 10 of those little bastards in your tube too.
I've got a pistol or two right close, but I also have a shotgun in there, and I have.
Late at night, I'm going for the shotgun.
I have 3-inch number 2s in it.
I don't trust myself.
If I shoot your ass, I'm gonna put a fucking hole in you the size of a biscuit.
It's at that close. It's gonna not be good. It's gonna fucking hurt.
But if I have to pull the trigger, I want to kill somebody. I don't want to hurt them. I want to kill them. If you've got me in such a bad shape, I'm worried about you hurting me, because I really don't have much that I own that I want to kill somebody over. I don't want that on my conscience forever. So, but if I think you're going to hurt one of my grandkids or my kids or my wife or me, I'm gonna put your ass to sleep as soon as possible. I had a neighbor when I was growing up. I was probably 20, 21. He had someone break into his house. He punched in. He shot with a .357 Magnum and a revolver. So
Clint Eastwood get a hold of him.
Let me tell you something. He shot their fucking refrigerator up. He shot their bathtub up. He broke the pipes in the house. He shot everything but the bad guy. I mean,
Hey, suppression, it keeps you guys, keeps your head down, and probably got out of that house really fast.
That guy shit on himself all running down the road. You know he did. But shot that house up.
Oh, yeah.
But he put one bullet went through the fucking refrigerator about 3 different ways.
Just went in there, bounced around.
Case scenario here.
And the kid was like 17 or 18 years old, and so his dad's like, God damn, at least hit him if you're going to shoot the house up next time. That fucking whole house was riddled with fucking bullets and shit. He was the only one home.
if if you were going to use a shotgun probably for home defense, I think your best deterrent is going to be investing in a good weapon light. And it's kind of contrary. And people are like, a flashlight. What is that flashlight going to do? So when you have that on your gun, and you have 1,000 lumens or whatever, if you punch that in somebody's face, they're not seeing anything past that. They're not seeing you. They're not seeing what's behind you. They don't even see the gun that's attached to. They just see a flashlight. Now you're able to see their hands. You're able to see them, and you can kind of control that situation by, listen, man, I have this light's on a gun. You step any closer, I'm gonna cut you in half. You can play that route, and they don't know. They come in if they really want to test it, by all means. But at least you have positive identification on that target, so because, like I said, it could be your buddy drunk and he walked in your house or whatnot. You don't want to accidentally shoot your buddy. But if you just have your weapon, same thing with your pistols. I have a pistol light on mine, a rifle. I have a light on mine too. Like, it's just to control, get on target, and just be like, tell me who you are. What are you doing in here? Like, oh man, sorry. Like, because you don't, like Jeff said, I don't want to shoot anybody. Yeah. I have no problem if it comes down to that point, but like, nobody wants to have to shoot a guy over your fucking Xbox.
No. And if I shoot somebody, I'm gonna. But if I have to pull a gun up, I'm shooting it. I'm not pulling my gun and pointing it at your ass either. You ain't getting no warnings at my house. If it comes to the point that I got to pull my gun out, either I'm going night or you're going night. But one of us is going to be riding in a hearse, because that's what I'm going to. Because you're either going to kill me or I'm going to kill you if I have to come down to that. And I hope I never do.
Boy, that'd be terrible.
No, I don't. I hope nobody ever has to do. I've had a few buddies. They've been in that situation. Hell, I had a buddy. He was in a fast platoon with the Marine Corps, and they got to do. He was an infantryman, designated marksman, but he got robbed at gunpoint. He's like, I had my pistol. I had the drop on him. He's like, I was behind cover. I could have shot him, but I was like, I let him have my fucking wallet. He's like, everything in my little card holder, I can open up my phone and turn off. He's like, what? He's got my ID. Cool. I'll just go get a new one. He's like, it wasn't worth me having the whole legal problem of shooting a guy when he was like, I had a $10 bill, 2 cards, and my driver's license. He's like, I turned off the cards as soon as I didn't see him. Then I just called the police just to make.
I had a friend of mine get robbed in Oakland yesterday.
It's Oakland.
Yeah, because I was fucking nervous in San Francisco, and the lady told me, whatever you do not stop in Oakland. Well, my buddy was stopped in Oakland yesterday in his rental car, flies a jet, goes into the grocery store getting gas. He wasn't even getting, and guys pull up my car. They went over, and then they stole his backpack out of his car, had his wallet in it, had his keys to his car back at home, had this or that, his laptop. They probably stole $3,000, $5,000 worth of shit. But what they got was, it was a pain in the ass for him to have to replace it all. But as mad as
I mean, I just can't. I hate thieves, man. That's like when I walked through the airport when I was with you guys. I keep my wallet in a Faraday bag. You can't scan it or anything like that. So when I'm at the airport, that thing stays at that Faraday bag. I've seen too many people get their shit taken, and if it's my debit card, I can't replace that money. I got bills to pay. It can get replaced, but it's going to take some time.
It's not a quick.
Nobody ever has time, so I don't have time. I need the money now.
It's not a quick fix, but there's nothing in his bag that he lost other than being a pain in the ass. And I'm sure right now he's like, I should have. And I'm telling you right now, he's an ex-Army Ranger guy, and he would have beat that son-bitch's ass. Both of them. He'd have beat their ass. But they probably had a gun and probably would have shot him. Best thing happened to him.
Yeah, a gun or a knife. I mean, he could have got stabbed. I mean, like, you can get stabbed over a backpack. Like, I'll take a headache,
but
as long as I don't have any open fucking holes in my body. Like, I don't want somebody else raising my kids.
There was nothing that he had in there that was worth. When you look at the big picture of it, there's nothing in there worth killing somebody over or you're getting killed over. It's just not. No. And people are gonna be like, bullshit, they're stealing my stuff, I'm gonna kill them. I understand that, and I understand people think that way. As I get older, I just don't have that much meanness inside of me anymore that I don't want to live on that. I don't want to shoot a 17 or
it's reserved.
18.
The meanness is reserved. If you have to fight, you got about 5 minutes of kicking your ass, and then but it's got to be very wanted.
I just unless you were hurting somebody or someone, I'm not going to want to shoot you.
Yeah,
and it's just not worth the. You imagine him if he would have ended up having a gun. First of all, I had a gun in California, And if I'd have got in trouble for having a gun, he didn't have his because it was in California. But if he'd have shot one, he'd be dealing right now with having to deal with getting a bail because they would have fucking nailed his ass to the. And he was the victim.
Yeah, it's funny how that goes with your fundamental right on that. Like, even if you did shoot the guy, you're gonna have to speak upon that wherever you go in this afterlife. Somebody's gonna ask you about that situation, whether it's the big man or not. Like, hey, tell me about that.
Right. Yeah.
That it's just better just to kind of avoid. Now, that's in a perfect world. You can't avoid a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, stuff's gonna happen. It's just how you react to that stuff is what's going to make you.
Me and Michelle had this conversation last night. We're watching that series Pacific. I highly recommend it. It is fucking 20 stars on a 10-star level. It's a great series.
Better than Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah, Pacific.
Band of Brothers is great too. I mean, it's very, very, very good. I mean,
it's better than Band of Brothers only because I say that as a Marine, but I say that as the violence portrayed as the Pacific. I will tell everybody the Pacific beats Band of Brothers every single day because it shows the gruesomeness of the Pacific. Like, my grandpa was in the Pacific. He lied about his age to get into the Marine Corps. He joined when he was like 15. And so it's just like don't get me started on the whole World War II thing, because the Japanese, they didn't surrender like the Germans did. Not saying that European theater was hard or anything. I was just like, it was down to the last guy on that island. And then after 5,000 or 10,000 Marines just died, then you can go to the next island and repeat that
I don't
process.
think people realize how much hand-to-hand combat there was in the Pacific theater. Everybody thinks of Midway and boats and planes, and there was a lot of it was very, very gruesome stuff. But Michelle was talking about her grandfather, Harry, that worked for us, my good friend who passed away. His dad was a prisoner of war on one of them islands. I can't remember if it was Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, but he was there for a little bit. The Philippines or something. He was and I've got a book that he wrote that he's got memoirs in. I need to read it again. I want to now.
He was a part of the Bataan Death March.
Yes. Michelle's grandfather, Bob, was at the Battle of the Bulge.
Wow.
And she said, she goes, Jeff, he came home and he would never talk about the war. I said, look at the demons them guys had. And I said, it wasn't one of those deals where you feel bad about shooting the people because they're trying to kill you too. But when you got done and the sun come up that day and you've mowed 100 dead people that are just, they're dead. Those guys are doing the same thing you're doing. They're fighting for their country, right, wrong, or indifferent. They're both doing the same thing, trying to survive. And it was the
Japanese, they were very gruesome.
Vicious.
I don't think a lot of people forget in history that, the Holocaust was unreal. I mean, it killed so many millions of people. But if you look at what Japan did to China, I think they killed anywhere from 25 to 30 million people.
Yeah,
that's a lot. I mean, it was common for them. They would throw babies up in the air, catch them with bayonets. I mean, it was just some fucking wicked shit. And it was a pure evil. I mean, they were testing out biological weapons in China. They're still seeing the effects of that. I think it was like Unit 731 that was doing that.
Yeah.
And the United States, we got some of those scientists for our own programs. I mean, Operation Paperclip got a lot of the Nazi Germany's over here. That's why our air power is what it is now. The Nazis.
Everybody needs to go look up Unit 730. Is it 731 or 791? You can type that in.
It's 7 something. It'll pop. I think it's 731. Because I just read a book about it the other day.
If you want to see true evil and how nasty the human can be, that reading about that will fucking trump anything that you've ever read. They were doing, what would they would submerge people in like ice, wouldn't they? Ice blocks, ice water to
that's the shitty thing, because a lot of the stuff that we know about hypothermia, shit like that, it was done by either Unit 731 live human testing, by freezing them and the effects of that, and the Luftwaffe, they had their own unit that was doing testing on concentration camp members. When they first come in, they'd pick the healthy ones and they would transfer on these and they would do testing. So a lot of the knowledge that we do know about some of the hypothermia effects and how it affects you, most of that came from those tests. I mean, the shitty thing is, it was just done on live.
We ain't no better now. Fucking the COVID shit, the Wuhan lab and crap. We're doing the same. We're doing biological testing these days, just like they did. It's just a little bit more control, but we don't know about it. But we would be fools to think that that's not going on. One of the funny parts of that show, and I'm not done. We're only about halfway through the series, but is there's a kid in Australia. The guy's going to Australia, and one of these Australian Navy guys is trying to be a smart ass to our Marine and says something like, I don't remember what he said. And the guy said, listen, if it wasn't for fucking us, your ass would have them fucking yellow meat bastards up your asshole so far you wouldn't know what to do, and you'd be eating out of fucking chopsticks right now. It's the same with the French.
The New Zealand actually has I can't remember, it's with the 1st Marine Division, but New Zealand loves the Marines because that's where a lot of them staged over there in between combat operations in the Pacific. And so same thing with like France out there in Bellawood and whatnot. Like there's like little totems of, I guess say gratitude for the Marine Corps all over the world. But like New Zealand, the thing is with Australia is all the guys were gone fighting in Africa and the European theater and in the Pacific. So when the Marines would stage in there, it was all women,
a lot of American babies.
And so that's why the Aussies like hated the Marines because they're like fucking stealing our women.
They were breeding all the babes.
So, yeah. So there was a lot of naturalized American citizens that probably got brought over during that time frame.
Maybe some little courties. I may have some cousins over there. My grandpa told me the prettiest place he was in the South Pacific for 4 years or whatever he was at Pearl Harbor. So from 41 through about 45 or 40, I think he was in Tokyo Bay when the surrender happened even. So that was in 46.
So he was throughout the entire
whole war. He
war,
stayed there. My mom was born in 44 and my grandpa did not see her till she was almost 2 years old because he'd been home, I guess, knocked my grandma up and then went back to war again.
You gotta get to work while you're here, boy.
But But he said the prettiest place, he was in the South Pacific the whole time. He said Hawaii was the prettiest place that he went to, even more than Bora Bora and Bali and all that other stuff.
Well, it's probably because Bora Bora and everything else is probably smelled like burning bodies and everything else that was over there. And the Japanese had people on everything. Guam, huge fights in Guam. I mean, it was just all your beautiful places now. If you dig deep enough, you'll find a lot of bullshit from the war.
Every island was a battle.
Was the guy? Was it World War II? Because like you said, the Japanese, they were going to go down to the last guy, but there was a special unit of Japanese guys, and they were on an island. War ended, and like everybody's, they're trying to get them out, and they're sending these pamphlets, like dropping them on this island, like. War's over. You can come out now. He stayed out there for like 40.
I think the guy came out to like. It
was in the mid 80s.
He came out in like 1970 or 80s or something like that. It was in that time frame, and the guy was like stealing people's chickens and surviving. And he had like one rifle with like fucking 4 bullets, I think. And he was taking the fight. I mean, he was just
like it went on for 30 or 40 years. He fought this imaginary war, like you said, stealing people's chickens to survive, and like finally got him out. Went back to Japan and. He wanted to go back. Like he hated what Japan had become.
Could you imagine me and that guy though? You're on an excursion with your family on snorkeling. Right. This little fucker here just wanting to shoot at us.
Doing? He's got a machine gun. He's got a World War II gun. Where'd he come from?
I mean, he was probably so. I mean, if that's the thing with the Japanese, it was they're like Tojo and all those guys. They were gods. You were fighting for pretty much your salvation. So I mean, they would say like, oh, the Marines would kill your family. They did this, so they would throw themselves off of cliffs and suicide. I mean, it was tradition. So you're going up against a fanatical enemy like that. It's down to the last man. I mean, because it's for them it's a religious fight. You're fighting for salvation.
Yeah, we on one of the episodes with On the Road with Boss that we did, we went to the World War II museum in New Orleans, and I didn't realize. It was it was eye-opening for me just because I did not realize the brutality and how extreme it was in the Pacific Theater. Growing up, I'd always seen about Europe and the concentration camps, and I can't even remember in high school. Like when you research World War II in high school and any other time that I've ever done research on World War II, it's always the European theater. You'd spend 2 weeks on it and then, or a week and a half on it. And then the last 3 days of the 2 week block you spend on the Pacific theater, and you only hit the high points. During the museum walkthrough, my eyes were opened at how the Pacific theater was just awful.
The Pacific was a meat grinder. I mean, it It really was. I never got to meet my dad's dad, my grandpa. He died when my dad was in high school. So I pretty much had to live through his stories, through what he's told my dad. And he didn't really tell my dad a whole lot. Like he has a Japanese bayonet that he brought back. But he was over there, Okinawa, stuff like that. And it seems like just a typical response is, hey, because he asked him, did you ever shoot anybody? And he was like, I took a couple pot shots at somebody. Well, me knowing as a Marine now,
Right.
Dude, he was probably hooking and jabbing on the islands for a little bit, because he was a mortarman. You're not a mortarman in the Pacific, and you're not seeing combat. I mean, he joined from 42 till like 52 or whatever. You're seeing some shit. So, but I found this picture of him. He was in Alaska because what a lot of people don't know too is in the Aleutian Islands, the Japanese fought on those islands as well. So he's got a picture. It was way after the war, but he was standing beside this wall, a bunch of bullet holes on it. So I want to go back to Alaska and shoot harlequins and find that same fucking wall and take a picture, shooting ducks by it. Because without that guy teaching my dad how to duck hunt, I would be nothing in the sport. I would know nothing about that.
They attacked Dutch Harbor.
So I feel like I owe it to him to find that damn wall.
They attacked Dutch Harbor before they did Pearl Harbor. I think it was
little bands of the Japanese, and that's a whole part of history that nobody knows. And the fights up there were brutal as well. I mean, think about it. It's Alaska conditions on a bullshit rocky island.
And they're fighting over Little Rock Island.
I want to fight that.
We
bolt action rifles.
I have Tony. When my grandfather passed away, he left a trunk, and Tony got it, and it had all the coins from all over the world. My grandpa was at. He collected coins all the time. We've got an old Japanese rifle in there, and we have a part of a Zero they shot down on their boat. Shot down.
Really?
Just a little metal piece of it. But the sad thing is,
Mitsubishi.
the sad thing is that only me and Tony were interested in all my cousins and stuff. We were the only ones that were interested in any of that. I've got the flag in my I'm safe right now. The ship my grandfather was on was decommissioned, and he was the warrant officer on it, and they gave him the flag when they decommissioned the ship. And I have it. It's got old holes and tattered, and it's a big flag. I've got to get a frame for it, but it's too big to put on a wall. It's a whole wall.
I would love to see that. If I ever make it down to you guys for a hunt, I definitely would like to see that. I love all that history. I'm a big history guy, so like, you got to keep talking about it. If you don't, you're gonna forget about it. I mean, a lot of people, like you said, Andy, like you didn't know much about the Pacific. One more generation, they won't until they see like some stuff on the videos and whatnot. To me, it's a big portion of my life. I mean, as a Marine, that's our history. We can't forget about that. That's the thing about the Marine Corps is they instill every fucking bit of history from the Marine Corps into your soul because it's a cult. And so it's important to me for sure.
Andy's got the flag now.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it's all, you can't hear me now probably, but
that thing's like shut up.
I mean, it's all falling apart. I'm not going to unroll it, but I mean, you can see it.
No. You know it. So what? Do you know exactly what ship it was on?
USS or Coufel, Coufel or something. I've looked it up. They decommissioned it in New York State after the World War II, but he went back with it, and he was with it all the way till it decommissioned.
You said the USS Coufel?
Coufel, Coufel, or Coufl.
I'll look into it, and I'll write that down. I mean, that's really interesting, man. You got the flag of like where it could end up,
Well, it's going to go on the wall of the big Honker Lodge with it's going to be in a framed, and I'm going to give it to my grandkids one day.
How big is it unrolled? Like from that light to that corner?
It's a big, how big enough to be on a ship where you could see it. It's a big flag.
Really?
It's bigger than that TV, twice as big as that TV probably.
Oh, wow.
140 inches maybe.
Yeah, their flags are not small. I mean, I got one from Pendleton that I gave to Dirk, and that thing's probably 15 feet long, fucking like 10 feet tall or something like that.
My mom had,
I don't know if it's that big. It was pretty big.
My mom had it for about, 7 years. And she told me, she goes, when your grandfather passes away, I want you boys to have this. And I thought, oh, good, I'll hang it up in the lodge. Really be cool. Well, it's not something to hang, but I've got to get get a frame for it where I can put it behind glass. But I don't have nothing big enough for the whole flag, I don't think. So what I'm going to do is have it done where it's kind of folded in half and stuck in there, and I'm going to have a plaque put on it. But I thought that was a hell of an honor for my grandfather to be given that when they decommissioned the ship, to give him the actual
when you
flag.
decommission a ship, it's no small thing. So I mean, like, he must have been, pretty high up in there just had really good rapport with the officers. Like, hey, we think that you deserve this. I mean, that's not usually like the captain of the ship or whatnot gets it.
Yeah, well, he told me, he used to tell me stories about it a lot. He would talk a little bit, and he didn't go through a lot of hard combat times. He was on a supply ship. They ate pretty good, and they got attacked some, but he was on edge all the time, and he was around a lot of
submarines and stuff like that.
Yeah, but he told me that, he goes, it's funny. He goes, when you watch an old war movie and it shows these guys on ships, they're wearing their uniforms and shit. He goes, we didn't wear no uniforms. He said we wore our skivvies all the time. He said it was fucking hot.
Yeah, it was fucking hot.
Yeah. He said we would wear skivvies all the time, and they would have a guy on shark patrol when they would stop and they'd swim, because of sharks and shit.
Yeah.
He'd tell me he crossed the the equator many times and all the different deals.
Got shellbacked and all that.
But my cousins, none of them were interested in any of that, and they're all. I've got one boy cousin, or I got a couple boy cousins. The rest are girls, but they were not even interested. And to me, that's part of America that we're forgetting about. We have forgotten about World War II. We pissed on the Vietnam soldier. The society did. We did. We were terrible to them.
It's kind of fucked up on, like, when you look at the history on that, because I was a third generation Marine. So my dad, my both grandpas were Marines, and my grandpa that just passed away last year, he was in from 59 to like 63, so right before Vietnam. But like, when he got out, he got to see how that all played out.
Yeah.
And so I would always pick his brain on that. I mean, hell, he was at Dallas when Kennedy got shot.
Wow.
I mean, he was there at the airport and whatnot. So he was a big history guy too. So I'd always pick his brain on things. I mean, shit, when I was like 3 years old, he'd sit me down. We'd watch Full Metal Jacket all the time. That was like our movie together. And so he had a lot of knowledge when it came to like the Vietnam veterans they came across, because he had a lot of buddies that was like that. And he would talk to him. He's like, dude, it was pretty fucked up what they did.
Oh, it's a hellhole too. All the bunker rats and all the bamboo stakes and the things that they did. And then my biggest fear over there, I wasn't worried about that little sumbitch shooting at me. It was a damn cobra.
The fucking snakes.
Yeah, fucking crawling through them jungles and the mosquitoes and shit. Just a terrible. And people over here
it was eye opening for the United States when it came to jungle warfare.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
I couldn't. I'd walk around in the woods here turkey hunting, and I'm like, this shit would suck if I had a fight in it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and it's not even nowhere near dense as what a triple canopy jungle would be. I mean, when it gets night, you can't even see the hand in front of your face.
We walked through the jungles in Puerto Rico doing a tour, and I was sweating like a son of a bitch, like a fat kid in a donut shop. It was terrible, and humidity and stuff. And I thought, fuck, could you imagine having to wear a full combat deal, a big jacket or a vest on, all your rucksack and all that shit, carrying a rifle, and then worrying about some bitch shooting at you, all to make the war machine money. That's what really pisses me off about stuff now. In World War II, we figured out how much profit there was in war.
Fucking tons.
And the politicians have been on that kick since then. The Korean War, the Vietnamese War, the fucking war for oil, and now the Ukraine fake debacle. It's all about fucking money.
Yeah, I'm paying for that one. It's going to be a lot of money in taxes. I'll be surprised if I get a tax return this year.
Right.
Like, don't have kids, you have a tax return. Not anymore. Fucking war.
I'm claiming 21 million fucking illegals on mine.
Claims Zelensky.
Yeah. The best actor of the year. He should win the fucking Oscar or whatever the hell it is. But
that's a meat grinder over there too. I mean, it's crazy because you get to see it now. You see all the videos. You can see like World War II. People didn't really realize like the gruesome. I mean, you had combat photographers, stuff like that. It was starting to get Buddy into it. Vietnam was heavily filmed, but now you have a first-person drone physically putting you within 10 feet of a dude getting exploded, and you're like, that's got to have impact on younger viewers and everything else. Like, this shit's not a video game.
I don't think they realize that,
this
though.
Stuff is real.
I don't think the young kids fucking realize that. They think it's all a game. Even these kids that are shooting each other up on the streets every fucking day, they do not understand life and death, and they have so much disrespect. But in Ukraine right now, someone told me the other day, there's 17,000 artillery rounds per day shot over there.
Well, Dirk was telling us, wasn't he?
Yeah, how much powder is
Damn.
How much
I think
powder
it's
is
10,000.
Is it 10,000? But there's, yeah, that's what it's 10,000 artillery rounds.
That's a lot of powder in those shells,
Derek
though.
was saying.
You're talking
17 pounds per round. 10,000 rounds a day at 17 pounds. You wonder why we have a damn black powder shortage somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, and the shitty thing is the duck hunters, we're going to feel it. The prices are just going to jump up. I mean, in percentage, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, this isn't good." It's like, well, I mean, we didn't really consider that aspect of it as components. So we just thought shells were going up, and then people were like, "Well, it takes components to make that, and if all the powder is being embargoed in China and stuff like that to the United States, making it extremely hard to get, and it's expensive if we do get it, and then all the resources going over towards Israel and Ukraine with those conflicts, it's going to start squeezing on the American here trying to shoot ducks."
It's cost.
It's like, oh, great. Now my steel shots equally as much as bismuth.
It's cost.
Start shooting
It's
bismuth,
costing the everyday person tax money. If you're a hunter, it's going to be an increase in stuff. But guess who's getting rich? Fucking politicians and lobbyists. They're lined up. Their pockets are just getting thick. And
I just got to figure out how to become a politician.
You gotta do. If you can ever get in that club,
I just got to do it for
you'll
2
be a
years.
multimillionaire.
And I'll be sick.
That's the thing is like even like the incumbent always wins basically. So if you ever get in, you're greased forever.
if
I don't know if I could stoop myself down to that
Right.
politician
you
level,
mean
though. That's
selling
the problem.
yourself out to the fucking devil, the dumbest people in the
Using your fucking brain, that's kind of
the dumbest
that goes hand in hand
the dumbest
nowadays.
people in the world is the American citizen that puts up with this shit from our politicians.
Well, we all do.
They have sold. No, the American citizen's worse than anybody. We are the dumbest people in the whole world. The dumbest. We fund everything in the world, and we let 550 cocksuckers in Washington, D.C. get rich, send our kids off to fight battles for them, all so they can line their pockets. And that's
what I worry about is fucking Andy. Your kids are about
Yep.
that age too.
9 and 5.
I know my boys is probably going to be fighting the next war, and that's the shitty thing because like I would hope it would not get to that point. So now it comes to the point, or you got to raise the next war fighters. Can't coddle them now. I mean, not like when these past generations gone up and like everything was all Gucci and everything's easy. No, your kids are going to be going through some shitty times, and you're going to have to guide them.
There's
through
an
that.
old saying that World War II was fought with guns and ended with a big bomb. World War III, nobody knows what they'll be fighting with, but in World War IV, will be fought with sticks and stones again.
Sticks and stones.
So, who knows? But
going biblical back on them.
everything that is supposed to happen has started happening, and we're seeing it. And Trump is Nostradamus because everything he said Joe Biden's dumbass was going to fuck up, he's gotten 100% correct on. So man,
that didn't take very much to know that guy.
No,
I'll be surprised. I'm very curious on what's the 2024 is going to look like. You know, I don't like any politicians particularly, but I'm curious to see how this race is going to play out because I think these next 4 years is going to be the critical years of whether that point is going to tip. They're looking for, Russia obviously is like, dude, we love Biden because we can do anything that we want. And that's great. But when it comes to China and Taiwan, if anything that COVID highlighted is supply chain management issues.
Right.
If anything that we should have done in the past couple of years is try to absorb as much supply chain that we can do in-house because when it blows up its top, we're going to be fucking boned. I mean, there's not going to be, the supply chain is the biggest portion right now. I mean, hell, AT&T just went down yesterday.
yeah.
How'd that make you feel not being able to text your wife or whatnot? You're like, this fucking sucks. If something happens, how am I going to communicate a rally point or whatever to meet up? Like, hey, you and the kids need to be here if this happens. Can't. Now everybody's in the dark. And when chaos ensues like that, it's a shit
Well, it
show.
wasn't that far long ago we didn't have cell phones. We can get by without them, but you got to have some common sense.
Yeah, but
we can now, but we're so
everybody's used
integrated.
to it now, though.
But we have to have some common sense.
Yeah.
That is gone way out the window.
If we have a fair election,
That's fucking
that left 10 years ago.
if we have a fair election, Donald Trump wins the election. He wins all 50 fucking states probably in a fair election, even Hawaii in a fair election. I don't think we'll have a fair election. I think they're going to try to do something to keep us locked down again because they know they can't win. And it's the bad actors on both sides, the deep state that runs it all, and whoever's behind all this shit going on in the world. I mean, there's nobody in the world that's a Democrat, that's an honest politician that thinks, yeah, you know what? We need 18 million illegals coming over our border in 4 years. There's no way. It's all a design process. And in a fair election, Trump wins. If Joe Biden wins the next election, we will never, ever, ever have the United States of America that what it was. People can say the sky's falling.
Well, there's got to be a silver lining in there.
Part of me
somewhere.
just
I mean,
feels like
somebody's
even if
gotta
Trump
be able
gets
to pull it
elected,
together.
it's just going to kick the can 4 years.
I don't think so. I think he's going to change a lot of people that have done a lot of very bad actors. I hope so.
Isn't John F. Kennedy? Isn't he running as an independent?
Yeah, but I think he's going to end up being Trump's running mate. Kennedy.
Oh, really?
I think he's going to end up being Kennedy's running mate or Trump's running mate, and that's our only chance we have. And the only reason I like Donald Trump so much is he's not a fucking politician. They just fined him $385 million in a frivolous lawsuit in New York, and he went to him and he said, "Can we have some time, 30 days to work or so?" No, they're charging him $88,000 a day in interest over a lawsuit over doing the same thing that every real estate developer in the United States of America does. If you go to your house and
Oh my God! I wish I had that much money. I'd have the best duck.
Well, they're
in the
trying to
world.
put him out of business because they don't want him running for president. They're doing everything they can to cheat. But if you went to borrow money at your bank for your house and you wanted to get a second loan on it or a loan, let's say it's paid off and you want to do it. My house is paid off. I went to the bank and said, "Listen, I want to borrow $100,000 on my house. It's worth $250,000. I just want a $100,000 loan." And the bank writes you that loan and you pay it back. And then for the state of Texas to come back and say, whoa, hold on. That house wasn't worth $250,000. He lied. It's only worth $80,000. We're going to fine him more than what the house is worth or whatever it is. That's all they did. He didn't do nothing wrong. The bank wants to do business with him. The bank who lended the money was for the loan. The people that come out and did the inspection said, yeah, it's a good loan. You're getting more value. They've come out now and said Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. You can't buy Mar-a-Lago for $100 million.
Right.
And it's just shit like that they keep doing and doing and doing. And it's all political. And it's just scary. Those people on January 6th, they never got a free trial. They didn't even had a trial. Some of them have been locked up without bail. But you can shoot a motherfucker in Los Angeles and not have bail and they don't worry about you. It's just, our country is so screwed up. And that's what makes me so mad about all the things that were fought for our freedom. When those guys were at Guadalcanal, they didn't fight for this bullshit right here. They fought for freedom and us to have the right to do stuff, you know?
Wasn't the American Revolution, didn't it tip off because...
They got to do some cool shit, though, when they had America. It was pretty cool.
Didn't the American Revolution tip off because like a 2-cent sales tax or some shit like
tea.
that? I mean...
I think it was something stupid small. Now we're like taxed like what, 45%?
Well, we had enough. I've had enough of it. I'm sick of fucking... Who wants to give money? If we've got enough money to give all these other fucking countries and all this other shit, fuck it. You don't need my money no more. You got enough. We shouldn't have to pay income tax anyways. We're so fucking
they're just printing money is what it seems like. It's like, what's another 90 billion? I was like, what do you mean? What's another 90 billion? Like,
nobody took an economics class that's in Congress, but we should not be taxed on all this shit we're taxed on. You buy a gallon of gas. A gallon of gas right now here in Texas cost about $2.79 a gallon. Is that what it is now?
$2.99 is what I just paid.
$2.99. When I was in California, it was $6 a gallon.
That's why I liked driving back to Oklahoma, because it got cheaper as it got to Oklahoma, and I was like, I'm close to home because it's like $1.60 compared to $5.
But it's taxes. You know? They just tax the shit up, and then poor fuckers in California are just stupid. And they just okay, because I've asked them when I was getting gas.
The only tax I agree with is the Robertson-Pickman Act. Is for any sportsman, that money is strictly for conservation. That's it. That's all I care about. That's the only tax that I like.
Well, nobody likes taxes. We've got to have an infrastructure.
But, if anything was going to be, it might as well just be something I wanted to be for like my sport. Right. Because giving all that money and like, what the fuck am I getting out of it?
We've got to have infrastructure, some taxes. I don't mind paying some taxes. I wish we went to, and I'm okay with this, go to 15% sales tax and do away with income tax. The people that make money spend more money anyways. So I'm going to get taxed more than the guy in town who doesn't make much. A multimillionaire is going to get taxed a whole lot more than I make. A billionaire a lot more than him. Tax people on what they on sales tax, and that's it. We don't need all that other shit. Get rid of all these fucking accountants. Get rid of the IRS. 15% sales tax on everything across the board.
Well, in Texas, don't you guys have like a you guys don't have income tax?
None.
Not state.
No state income tax.
I always get boned over for Oklahoma State tax. Like, it doesn't matter what I do. It seems like I always owe on Oklahoma State. I'm like,
why?
Dude,
Y'all have so much oil and gas.
You tell me, Jeff. I have no idea, but I'm getting tired of it. I'm like, oh, cool, we're getting a return, and then they hit the state, and I'm like, God dang it.
I'm going to tell you something's going to happen in Oklahoma in the next 10 to 20 years, and it may be sooner, is they're going to give all of the natural resources to the Indians. It's going to happen. They're going to give, because back in the original treaty with the Indians said that the Indians would get everything from the sea to the stars, from the water to the sky above, everything. So all of them natural gas, all that oil, all that wind energy, all that solar, every freaking thing, they're going to pull that old woke bullshit about trying to make everything smooth over from what happened over the years.
Not in Oklahoma.
That's the place it's going to be, because that's where it was all signed.
The good thing is the U.S. government has a really good reputation with the tribes saying, oh, yeah, we're just kidding about that treaty. It's ours now.
They fucked over the Indians on a bunch of shit. But that is in their deal. We had to drill water wells here in the city of Knox City. We had to have 3 tribes from Oklahoma sign off on it so we could drill a water well. Yep.
Really? I'm sure that was a pain in the ass.
It actually wasn't as bad as you thought it would have been. But still
an unnecessary step.
Exactly. And that's the kind of shit that Oklahoma, you just wait and see. It's gonna, if we don't get some changes in our country soon, that's what's coming. Same with
as long as they give us a good duck season and a good OU football team, I don't care what they do.
It's got to be tough. To be an OU fan nowadays. Woo. Coach goes to California. All your players are coming back to Texas. Now you're gonna have to start playing Alabama every year. I bet Oklahoma's a lot better than
as long as we just beat Texas. That's all that matters.
Y'all
don't. Which that's a 50-50 shot every year anyway. So I mean, it's usually.
You know what my friends from Oklahoma State say? We beat OU the last time we'll ever play them. Never play you again.
Yeah, we'll find them in the bowl game, probably.
I don't know.
One of these days. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's going to be very long before we play them again.
It's stupid not to. But Texas and A&M never played again until they went back to the SEC. I was really surprised by that. I think you're going to see. I think Texas and Oklahoma will do a lot better in the SEC than everybody thinks they're going to be. I think they're going to both be very competitive.
I see OU going to 6-6 this year.
I think they'll be better than that.
Maybe Texas going a little bit better.
Texas preseason number 3. Yep.
Are they?
Well, hell, they returned
it's
most
so
of their
hard
team.
To say, right now. It's the early season stuff is so hard. But the big games is Christian. He's our other partner in this. He's a big Auburn fan. So as long as we beat Auburn too, so I can talk shit to him.
he hadn't had much.
That's all that matters.
He hasn't had much to brag about in a long time.
No, it's been rough for him, and I usually text him during college football season. I'm like, well, and he's just like, don't even talk about it. I'm like, cool. Because he knows I'm loading up one for him.
You got anything, Andy, before we get off here?
No, listen, man, this has been a lot of fun. It really has. It's been informative. I think we've covered a lot of bases here. So really appreciate it. We've gone almost 2 hours. So it went by in a hurry. That's always a sign of a good podcast. Whenever you look down and you're an hour and a half in and you can still ramble on. So
anybody needs to get a hold of you, patternpros.com.
Pattern Pros USA.
PatternProsUSA.com, and then on Instagram it's just Pattern Pros. So if you guys got any questions, if anybody has any questions on choke tubes, shot, different things, just shoot me a message. I usually have it on me all the time, so I can get back to you pretty quickly.
Perfect. And you'll be at the Bassmaster in Tulsa in a couple weeks?
I'll be at Bassmasters with you guys, with Dirk and them, and then I'll probably go up to Squad Fest with you guys as well.
Nice.
And then Delta. We'll be at Delta. We'll have a booth at Delta, so
cool.
That'll be good.
We look forward to seeing you again. Good group. Are the ladies coming to Delta?
I believe so. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out because we're building up tons of product right now, getting ready for it, and then if my wife wants to go, but we got to figure out what to do with
Michelle sure enjoyed hanging out with the girls in Nashville. It was a good time. We appreciate you being on here. God bless you, my friend. Thank you for your service, and
we'll see you soon.
Yes, look forward to it, my friend. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Not a problem. Thanks.
Good company. Good group of guys.
Yeah.
Man, that was a lot of fun. That's one of the most knowledgeable young men I've ever been around my entire life.
He could like no bullshit. He would diagnose a problem in 45 seconds, 30 seconds. I mean, he would get the information and then he had an answer. I never saw him stumped.
I felt like when the girls from Boss will be at a booth and someone talks about waterfowl hunting, they'll be like Jeff, and I'll answer questions for them.
Right,
I felt like that was me because they'd ask me questions. I'd be like, fuck, I ain't got a fucking clue. Hold on, just a minute. This guy here's an expert.
Have you seen this? So it's called OpenAI Soros, I believe. It's going to put Hollywood out of business. So basically, I was trying to read a little bit more about it.
OpenAI's Sora.
It goes from text to video. So you tell it what you want, and then like it makes your video, makes your movie.
Who's going to be the first industry that's going to try to pay lobbyists to do away with AI?
I don't know. I think we're too far down the road now.
You don't think it's possible now?
But Tyler Perry, so this is what the whole thing was. Tyler Perry halted an $800 million studio expansion after seeing what OpenAI Sora could do. We're fucked.
Everything that happened in Transformer movie is coming true, kind of.
I mean, we're fucked. The robots are going to take us over. You're not going to know what's real anymore. You're not going to know what's authentic. We talked about that on a podcast about the Taylor Swift porn video that got put out. You're not going to know what's real. Misinformation is going to be rampant. And it's just going to put everybody out of business because this is going to leach into every sector of our society. I mean, we're fucked.
So even podcasts, they could have an AI podcast. Me and you could be doing a podcast on him us.
Well, yeah.
But I'm not to mention that. But in general, you could have every podcast or anything you want to do.
I mean, yeah. Like this is what I've been saying with the electric vehicles. We are at the basement level with all of this shit. This is only going to get worse. It's only going to get more advanced. This is what's going to kill us. This is what's going to do us in as a society. It's AI. I'm calling it now. 2024, February 23rd, 2024. We're fucked. Enjoy it. Enjoy the next couple of years because the end is coming, and this is what's going to kill us, and we let it in. Calling it. It's crazy.
AI can't grow vegetables. There's a lot of industry that's going to be there.
Of course
they can. It's going to affect the entertainment business more than anything and the creative business.
It's going to be everywhere.
Well, I understand it is, but it's going to create that stuff.
This is AI is going to be in places that you don't even think that I can't even begin to think of all the places that it's going to be. We're done. Human civilization's over with. We let them in. We got too big for our britches. We created something. We let the genie out of the box. It's over with, Jeff.
So what should we do then?
Well, I don't know. You bitch about politicians all the time without an answer. I can bitch about AI and not have an answer.
I'm not saying that it's not scary. I agree with you on that. I'm just saying I wonder what is the answer, though?
I don't know. What's the answer to all of your questions about politicians?
Get rid of every one of them motherfuckers.
That's never going to happen. That's not a feasible answer.
No, it is
yelling
too.
at a wall.
No, it is feasible. We just need to completely replace everyone there, but we'd have to fucking tear up the whole system.
But it's not going to happen.
No, you know what's going to fix our country? It's going to take blood being spilled.
I agree.
That's what it's going to take. No,
are you willing to do it?
No,
Am
I'm too
I willing to do it?
No, we're too comfortable.
Exactly.
You know, that's why the greatest generation is the ones that we had before.
Yeah.
I mean, when you saw kids 15 years old going to sign up for the Marines and stuff, 15-year-old fucking kid here ain't going to go nowhere but Starbucks.
Right.
They just don't do it. We don't. And it's my generation is what's killed our country because our kids, we raised a bunch of fucking pussies. Sorry, but that's true. That is exact truth. I got fucking one of my friends got a fucking son that don't know if he's a guy or a boy or whatever. And I mean, he's just fucking weird deal. And I'm like, how the fuck does that thing come out of you?
Right.
You know, I'm not talking about a guy being gay or a girl being gay. I'm talking about a fucked up cross-dressing dude. And I'm like, where in the fuck did it? And just, it's acceptable. And I just don't get it. But we've went from one end to the other end. We've gotten really way off. All right. Thank y'all for listening.
Here's the movie that this Soros thing's produced.
They sure could have found a better looking actor.
It's just, that's not an actor. That AI generated
Well,
that.
you'd have thought it would have been a better looking guy.
He's not a bad looking guy. But that's all AI. Somebody said, hey, I want an astronaut in the desert. And this is what it came up with. Probably in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, don't look like a show I'll be watching.
You're getting lost in the weeds here.
No, I don't. I would watch an AI show. If it's something I like to see in history and something, I would watch it.
There's a coral reef that it did.
But I don't want to see, I don't like space shit. You put a series out that Outlander looked like it'd be interesting.
It's not.
It's a guy in a spaceship in a desert.
But I mean, they probably like, hey, what would be something outrageous that we can do? Let's have a astronaut in a desert. That sounds silly.
Did we land on the moon this week? Or was that fake?
That's what they said. Well, fuck, who knows with OpenAI? Who knows?
Do you think we did?
I don't know. No, I'm gonna say no. Flat Earth, I'm going with 76% or whatever I'm at now. No, we didn't get to the moon. It's more AI propaganda.
All right.
Wild times. That's what Brody was saying. Like, what's 2024? It's gonna be a wild year.
Someone asked me yesterday or suggested, and I've had a couple messages about getting a prepper on here. I don't know that a true prepper is going to come on here and tell us this shit.
It's like Fight Club.
If you know a true prepper out there that would really come on, we'd love to have a prepper on right now.
I'd love to talk to him.
Because there's a Democrat in office. When they are, preppers are important.
They are.
And
no better bullet salesman on planet Earth than a Democrat.
Yep. So anyways, if you know a prepper, a really good one that will come on here and tell his story, we'd love to have you. You know, I've got people like my Uncle Mike, right? And then you talk to Uncle Mike, he don't want to do it. If you've got a prepper that would come on here and tell his story, we'd love to have him on there. Same, we'd love to have a liberal. I'd love to have an anti-gun, bunny-hugging liberal that'll come on here and talk. We'll be nice. I'd like to have a debate with them. Anyways, thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. When's this come out? Next week? Have a great week. Peace.
Love you. Bye. Watch for deer. Stay away from AI. Go check out all of our sponsors. Go check out Shin Gear, Dirty Duck Coffee, Dive Bomb Industries, Looking Glass Podcast, Lucky Duck, Double T British Kennels, Ducks Unlimited, Stanfield Outfitters, Mossberg, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Hemp Hill Farm. Use the promo code BHB. Pacific Calls, BHB25. Promo code there. Boss Shot Shells and MLR Graphics.